Welcome to iTTV for Form 2 Science, where we continue our journey through the world of the senses. Today's lesson, the sense of sight. Now you're sitting in front of your monitor or TV set and watching me. What I'd like you to do is, for a moment, could you please close your eyes? Okay, now that your eyes are closed, even though you can hear me, you cannot see me. Now you can't see me because the light from the monitor or the TV set cannot enter into your eyes. So today we're going to look at the eyes, which is a sense organ that is specially designed to detect the stimulus of light. By detecting the stimulus of light, the eyes allow us to see. The sense of sight is the ability of the eye to detect light stimuli. So, like I said to you, the eye, which is our sense organ that we're looking at today, it detects light. Now, light are waves that travel through the air, they even travel out in space. They are electromagnetic waves, and our eye is, like I said, designed specially to detect these waves. The human eyes are spherical. They are inside bony sockets in the skull. So you have two eyes which sit in the front of your face. Both of them are round in shape and they sit inside our eye sockets, which are on either side of our skull. Three pairs of muscles control the movement of the eyeball. So on either side of our eye, what this means is we have three sets of muscles that are connected to the eyeball. By moving these muscles, contracting them or relaxing them, we are able to move the eye up or down, to the left or to the right, or around and around. And this will allow us to see without actually having to move our heads. The walls of the eye are made up of three layers. The sclera, which is a white tough outer layer, the choroid, a black middle layer, and the retina, the innermost layer of the eye. So our eye has got three main layers. These layers extend all the way around the eye, except for the retina, which we only find at the back area of the eye. Let's have a closer look at these three layers. I'll draw the shape of an eyeball up here on the board, and then we can identify the layers in a bit more detail. So we start with the outer layer. This outer layer, remember, is called the sclera. Inside the sclera is a dark layer. It is black because we don't want any light reflecting inside the eyeball. This is called the choroid. So over here, we have the second layer, and this layer is called the, beg your pardon, sorry, a bit of mistake in the spelling there, choroid with a H. So choroid, that's the second layer on the inside. Finally, we have the sensitive area, which is our retina, which mainly, like I said, sits at the back of the eyeball. So the retina starts around here, comes down, and then continues to about here on this side. Now you'll notice that we have a gap coming out from the eyeball here. This actually is the area where the nerve sits. We'll just label it for now. This is the optic nerve, and this optic nerve is going to take all our impulses later on to the brain. We'll discuss the optic nerve in a bit more detail later. Important part is you understand the three layers, the sclera, the choroid, and the innermost layer, which is our retina. Okay? Right. Let's have a look at the retina in a bit of detail now. The retina contains many receptors that are sensitive to light. These are called photoreceptors. So if we were to take a close look at the retina, you will notice that it is full of these receptors. So what we'll do is, we'll just take a little area of the retina, just this area here, and expand it out. And what you'll notice is the retina, behind it, has got all these receptors. Like so, with their nerves coming out at the back of them. All these nerves will go to the optic nerve, but the retina has got all these photoreceptors behind them. There are hundreds of millions of them sitting in the retina, all of them ready to detect any light that is entering into the eye. Now that we've had a look at the main structure of the eye, which is the 3 layers and the photoreceptors in the retina, let's try 1 or 2 questions to test our understanding so far. The eye is sensitive to what kind of stimulus? Remember, I asked you to close your eyes. Something couldn't enter into your eyes. What was that? Let's have a look at the answer. Light. So the eye is sensitive to light stimulus. Let's try another question. How many layers are there around the eye? So remember, we drew the 3 layers earlier. There was the outer layer, the middle layer, and the inner layer. So the answer should be quite clear. Let's have a look. 3 layers. The sclera, the choroid, and the retina. Let's try 1 more question. Where are the receptors for light stimulus found? So we have 3 layers. The sclera, the choroid, and the retina. On which layer do we find our photoreceptors? Thought about it? Let's see if your answer is the same as mine. The answer is in the retina. Okay, so our photoreceptors are found in the retina. The choroid and the sclera have no receptors at all. Now that we've tried a few questions, let's have a look at the mechanism of detecting light stimulus in the eye. The eye both gathers and focuses light at the beginning of the vision process. So what we're saying is the light is going to enter into the eye, and then the eye is going to focus this light onto the retina so that we get a nice clear image. When light enters a human eye, the first structure we would encounter is the cornea. So let's begin with that. So that means to say that at the front of the eye, the outermost layer here is called the cornea. The cornea is just an extension of the sclera. So as the sclera comes down over here, it bulges out and comes back in. Okay? This area here is called the cornea. So the first thing that happens when light enters, as the light travels this way, coming in, we'll label this our light. The light hits this layer of the cornea. The cornea's job is really just to bend the light slightly and help with the focusing process. The outer surface of the eye surrounds the aqueous humor, a clear liquid that fills the cavity behind the cornea. So just over here we have an empty space. So let me just complete the eye a little bit here. Here we have the choroid, and now the choroid comes down here like so, and from the bottom it also grows up a little bit like so. Okay, I'll just extend this side a little bit to make it a little even. There we go, and allow our light to get in like so. There we go. This is basically what we call the iris. Okay, this area here in front of the iris has got a clear liquid in it, and this is the liquid that we call the aqueous humor. Okay, the aqueous humor over in this one. So let's label this. Aqueous humor. So now our light keeps going. It travels through the aqueous humor like so. Our light now passes through the pupil, the opening in the colored iris. Right, so our light now has reached this area here. We said that we have the iris, which is the extension of the choroid from the bottom and the top. There is a gap in the middle here. This gap is the black area inside your eye. This is called the pupil. Now, the pupil allows the light to go through it. If the pupil is big, more light will go through it. If the pupil is small, less light will pass through it. This is a mechanism that allows the eye to control how much light enters into it, and it doesn't allow itself to get damaged by too much light. The amount of light passing through can be controlled by opening or closing the pupil. So basically what we're saying is, if you're in a room with very bright lights, your pupil will become smaller so that you have less light going in. And if you go into a dark room, your pupil will automatically become larger to allow more light to go in. Either way, the eye is trying to control the amount of light so that you get the best picture without possibly damaging the eye. Next, the light encounters the lens. The lens's shape accommodates by contraction or relaxation of the ciliary muscles, allowing us to focus. So now we go to the lens. Right behind the pupil over here is the lens. So we have a lens that sits over here, like so. Okay, so this I will label as our lens. Now the lens can change in size because it has a set of muscles called the ciliary body. The ciliary body goes upwards like so and goes downwards like so. I'll just label this the ciliary body. Okay, that ciliary body allows the lens to become thicker or thinner, depending on how we want to focus. So remember, the ciliary body can make the lens become thicker or thinner, depending on what we are looking at. So let's continue with our light. As our light travels, now it will hit the lens, and the lens will start to focus this light towards the retina. So one ray gets sent downwards, and the other ray gets sent upwards, like so. Okay? And this is the focusing process that's already begun as the light travels through the lens. Passing the lens, our light enters the larger chamber of the eye, filled with the vitreous humor. So over here, in this area here, this is the larger chamber of the eye. We have a liquid, a bit like jelly here, called the vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. Main function is to maintain the round shape of the eyeball. The light's trip ends in the back of the eye at the retina. So finally, our eye that started, the light came in here. It came through the cornea, through the aqueous humor, through the opening in the front called the pupil, into the lens. The lens focused the light moved through the vitreous humor, and now finally the light has arrived at our retina, the final destination. Here the light will be detected by the photoreceptors. Over 100 million photoreceptors line the back of the eye, cells adapted to detect light and transmit nerve signals. So as our light arrives at the back here, these photoreceptors all get excited. They all wake up and they all fire off impulses that are going to go to the brain. And that is basically how we detect light. The light enters into our eye, it is focused onto the retina where our photoreceptors get stimulated and send out signals. We have 4 main photoreceptors. We have photoreceptors for the colors green, blue and red, and photoreceptors for dark or light. So they're slightly different. They allow us to see dark and light, which is mainly for night vision, and red, green and blue, which is mainly for daytime and color vision. The fovea, the most sensitive spot on the retina, also called the yellow spot. Now, most of the time, our eye tries to focus any light on the fovea. The fovea is roughly around this area here. Pull an arrow out. This is called the fovea. And the fovea basically is an area on the retina where it is the most sensitive to light. If we can focus onto the fovea, it means our image that we're going to see is going to be the brightest and the clearest that we could possibly get. The blind spot, area where the optic nerve leaves the eye, not sensitive to light stimulus. On the other side of the coin is the blind spot. It's the opposite of the fovea. The blind spot is over here, right where the optic nerve leaves the eyeball. Because you notice there is no retina on this area here, it means we have no photoreceptors. Any light that falls on this area will not be detected. So this is known as your blind spot. Okay, it's where the optic nerve leaves the eyeball, and unfortunately there is no retina on this area, so we are not sensitive to light here. The nerve impulse is sent by the optic nerve to the brain. So finally, once our receptors fire all the information, our information will be sent down to the optic nerve, and the optic nerve will send the information on to our wonderful brain. And then we in our brain will detect the stimulus and work out what the image we are seeing is. Focusing. When the ciliary muscles of the lens relax, the lens is thin and allows us to view distant objects more clearly. So now we want to just talk about the lens for a quick moment in terms of its focusing ability. When we want to focus on distant objects, so whenever we are looking at something that's far away, the lens is going to be thin. If you have a thin lens, it means that you can see distant objects. And this is achieved by the ciliary body or the ciliary muscles relaxing. When they relax, the lens goes back to being thin. While contraction of the muscles make the lens thicker and allow us to focus on nearby objects. So if we want to look at something close by, not far away, something that's close to us, this lens must become thicker. To make it thicker, what must happen is the ciliary muscles on top and at the bottom need to contract, and when they contract, basically the lens becomes thicker. Look, you can actually practice this at home. Not that you can see your ciliary muscles changing, but you can do it. If you just put your hand in front of your face like this, look at your hand and then look behind your hand. Look at your hand, look behind your hand. When you're looking at your hand, think to yourself, my lens is thick, so I can see close objects. And when you look away behind your hand to a distant position, your lens is thin because you're looking at a distant object. So distant object, thin lens, close object, thick lens. Okay? You do need to know this because these are common questions that come out in your examinations. Finally, the last part. The image formed on the retina is upside down. The brain flips it the right way up for us. Now, this is common for all optical instruments that produce a real image. A real image is something that we can put on a piece of paper or onto a screen, or in our case, onto the retina. So if you imagine that what we were looking at over here was a tree like this, by the time the light travels through the eye and reaches over here, the tree is actually upside down. The brain will automatically flip it the right way around for us so that we actually see everything upright and not upside down. So remember, the eye detects light stimulus. It has 3 layers: sclera, choroid, and retina. The photoreceptors are in the retina. Light has to travel through the cornea, aqueous humor, pupil, lens, vitreous humor before it reaches the retina. You really do need to know the pathway of light as it travels through the eye. That's all for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for watching ITTV.